from your perspective, as Kyle was watching this unfold, a shocking display of athletics and dominance, what do you think the main takeaway Kyle, John, Jed took from that beatdown was? And I want Ryan to go first.
The main takeaway for them was we could have done that. That was their takeaway. It should be the trenches, as we've been screaming for years. That's what the takeaway should be. That they need to beef up their offensive line and their defensive line and win the game in the trenches. That should be the takeaway. I have my doubts. Like, we know what their philosophy is and how they approach at least the offensive line. In the past, they've had a good defensive line, so I know they're going to prioritize that. I don't think they think the offensive line is that much of a problem. Hopefully I'm wrong, and they invest in that as well. But that should be the takeaway. The trenches should be the takeaway from that game.
Jessie, you next to go in a clockwise fashion.
Yeah, it should be the takeaway. I think first and foremost, not only the 49ers, but the rest of the league should be encouraged, because had the Chiefs won, what do you think as an opponent of the Chiefs? Like, is this team beatable? Because seemingly this was supposed to be the 2 down years as they're trying to kind of retool. And if they had walked away with 2 Super Bowl victories, how demoralizing for the rest of the league. And what I love about Philadelphia winning is that they did it without an elite quarterback. I mean, say what you want about Hurts. He's definitely clutch at the very least, and he deserves his flowers, but he's not in that elite category. So the fact that a team won, beat the best quarterback in the NFL, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and you did it without an elite quarterback, that should give the 49ers hope that the way that they're trying to build their roster can work. I would say the biggest thing is keeping on the quarterback position. How did Jalen Hurts' contract get structured? Because the way that it was structured has allowed Philadelphia to continue to build an elite team around him. So when it comes time to work out this contract with Brock Purdy, how are you going to structure that deal? Look at the Jalen Hurts deal. That's how you want to structure this thing so you can remain competitive as long as possible.
I like that. Coach.
For me, obviously the trenches stick out that we all saw. You know, this is by far the biggest offensive line in Super Bowl history, averaging 6'6", 325 pounds across the board, which I loved. But in my opinion, it's the run game. Philadelphia stuck to the run game. We're looking at 45 carries for 135 yards versus 11 carries for 49 yards. The Eagles understood their identity. They didn't shy away from it. They had a lot of plays where Saquon Barkley, outside of that 135 yards, he only averaged 2.3 yards a carry, 25 carries for 57 yards, right? And they still found a way to still give him 25 carries. That's what's impressive about that stat line to me. That would never fly in that would never fly in SF. It would never happen here, where a running back would be given the opportunity to rush the ball 25 times and only have 57 yards. Now, when you look at that in Niners world, right? That's not efficient. Why would Kyle do that? Those are dead numbers. But when you understand the context of what the run means during a game, when you're willing to commit to the run, when the defense knows they have to worry about the run, where you understand that, hey, running the ball, even though Saquon is not giving us the explosive plays that he customarily has given us throughout the season, a la the game against the Commanders, he's still a part of our offense. We can't abandon him and then pick up an entire brand new section of our offense that we do not do. That's not the element of who we are. I think that the Eagles were incredibly smart for keeping Jalen Hurts on the ground. Jalen Hurts pushing the ball forward in a lot of timely downs where he showed his legs. And one thing about them is, I used to say this about the Bills. that I really love the Bills because the Bills leave no stone left unturned. They just win. They don't care what they have to do. You look at the AFC Championship game. I mean, the AFC Divisional game that got them to the AFC Championship game, where you're going into the half and you see Josh Allen with only 5 attempts throwing the ball, and you're saying, man, these guys don't care. They're just trying to win. I saw that out of Philadelphia, and it's something that I would love to see replicated here, where we break out of the scheme. We stick to our identity. And that's why the Eagles beat the Chiefs today. I mean, beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It's because the Chiefs only ran the ball 11 times. The Eagles ran the ball down their throats, and they only averaged 3 yards a carry. But if you look at the context of the game, every yard mattered. So for me, it was the Eagles sticking to their identity, even in the face of having one of the best guys in the league running the ball at a Saquon Barkley. They could have said easily, right? If think about this, you let Kyle Shanahan be the head coach of the Eagles in that Super Bowl game, he automatically goes away from Saquon because the run isn't working. Automatically. He gets Kenneth Gainwell in the game. He starts trying to spread the ball out. He tries to start figuring out other options, how to get on the outside, because he can't just push the easy button and get automatic yards out of Saquon. What did the Eagles do? What did Kellen Moore do? Right? They couldn't get the run going with Saquon. They started using him in the passing game. They started putting him in the flat. They started finding other creative ways to get them going. So for me, it just their identity, they stuck to who they were, and they ran the ball. And they didn't care about 1 yard, 2 yards. They understood that they were going to get paid for that in dividends down the game, down in the stretch. So that's what stuck out to me.
I like that. To me, what was so interesting about it is I feel like the Niners have been pacing themselves against the Chiefs forever. And like that doesn't matter anymore. It's the Eagles. The Eagles are the team to beat. It's for the whole league. And the Niners, maybe that makes them feel good because they've beaten the Eagles and they've really done a good job against Jalen Hurts every time they faced him. The Chiefs haven't. The Chiefs get messed up by Jalen Hurts, but the Niners have kept Jalen Hurts in check mostly. They haven't faced Saquon Barkley on this team. I mean, they can't really stop the run right now, but I think from the Niners perspective, the question is how they match up with this Vic Fangio new look defense with this Georgia D-line, because I don't think the Niners can match up with that as currently constructed. I mean, if the Chiefs and their offensive line with Patrick Mahomes are just going to fold against that D-line, then what is Colton McKivitz and Jake Brendel and Spencer Burford going to do against that D-line? Like, I don't think the Niners – I think Brock will get hurt against that team. I think the Niners, if they're serious about being contenders, you're going to face Philly in the playoffs. You got to really improve your offensive line this year. Otherwise, you can't even compete with that team. I know that the Commanders did a pretty good job moving the ball against that defense, but they have one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league and a very different type of scheme than what the Niners have. I don't think the Niners can necessarily like zone read and RPO their way to a win with Brock Purdy against the Eagles. They really need a good left guard, a good center, a good right tackle. And maybe that takes them 2 years. Maybe they can't compete with the Eagles next year, but that's the team to beat, Philly. And they're going to be the team to beat as long as Fangio's there and Jalen Carter's there and Cooper DeJean's there. I mean, that defense is super young and they're young. It's dominant. It's what you have to worry about primarily with the Eagles, as good as their offense is.
The whole team's young, really.
Yeah. And it's not about the player, and it's not about the individual players that they have on their offensive line and on their defense. It's the philosophy. It's what they're going to do, period. So, yeah, Jalen Carter's special, right? Jordan is special. Landon Dickerson, they're all special in their own right. But it's the fact that this is what they're willing to go get. They're going to go get the 6'6", the 6'5", 300-plus guy. They're going to make sure that they fit that avatar. We can't break out of that. We need to start understanding that this is the standard to win. You got to get trenches, man.